Hello everyone, I am Noctis Corvus, Noctis for short. Welcome and nice to meet you, or welcome back if you've been to my corner of the void before. Today we are continuing the dream series, with another simple dream to sort of ease us into things. I've wanted to continue this since I did the last one, and I may as well start with the normal ones, rather than throwing us all in at the deep end and going on about the stranger ones that I have ideas for. Though, I think it's fairly safe to say that we will soon be approaching these stranger dreams in this series. Also, when I had all the sketches done, this is the one I wanted to work on most. So let's get straight into it. There's really no point in waiting with this one. You'll likely notice that this video is shorter than my other videos of this type. Normally I'm stretching for things to say as I feel more time, and yet with this one, I will need to ensure that I have enough to check everything off of my talking list. I mean, the longest part was the sketch, if anything, and I don't record those stages since it is a lot of back and forth. Which means this one ended up around 13 minutes, where normally I'd speed up the footage and still be trying to cut it down, or speeding it up further to ensure the video isn't over an hour. With this, I had to check I didn't miss a clip or something. But I suppose I will see it as a treat. I like the outcome quite a lot, and the length is something simple with the recent going-ons. More on those later. I mean, the dream is really the core of this video and series. The process can wait a moment, since there are a few things I want to cover with it, but not much to be fair. Though this is the Dream and Nightmares series, so I may as well continue by starting to introduce the feeling and events that I'm working from. It is the key part to any equation. Now, this dream is one where there isn't much of a story to it. Normally, I'd be able to talk of stories and events that I recall, or hazy, broken sections that don't quite fit together, but make enough of an image to sort of tell me about the night I had. This one wasn't one of those ones. There isn't really a story here at all. There was just the floating feeling for a while, with an impression of space around me. And I've had a few like that before. More just floating in space where nothing happens other than stars and galaxies. They are always the calmer one. This one then began to introduce the bubbles. It sort of began as one and then another followed it. Big bubbles and then small and bright ones, and a few dimmer ones in the distance. But there wasn't a bubble that wasn't welcome in the dream, as they floated between the stars and smaller planets. Each bubble then had a sort of impression in it. Something I didn't really imitate here in the smaller ones, yet do include in some of the medium ones. Though the impressions were of people and places I've seen before, or places I've been before. It was sort of just a fun dream to float there between them. Though, in all of this, I chose to draw a moment in the middle part of the dream. Maybe it was closer to the start. Yet the moment here is where the impressions in the bubbles were still taking shape. It's why there isn't one that I add to the middle bubble, and also why some details end up lacking in the smaller ones. Like, I detail a person in one of the side ones, but I don't detail who it is. This did end up feeling right anyway. It's one of the dreams I recall, yet I couldn't tell you what was in each bubble. I can tell you a few though, and I will. Some of the memories included faces of people I knew. Like one was of my sisters, and another of my friend. Though the bubble with my friend was more of a memory, since it was that friend but so long ago that I almost didn't recognise them immediately. I've known them for a while and they've changed quite a bit in my defence. I mean, at the bottom of the image I included one where the picture in the bubble was of an old school. I didn't add details beyond it, yet the bubble itself was one of the few that never fully cleared anyway, though they all were still forming at the moment that I chose to draw. Now, normally I would talk of the dream a little longer. I know I'm jumping around here and moving sort of fast too, but that really is all that was to the dream. It's not a long one, and it isn't an eventful one. If anything, I like it for its simplicity and the calm that it carries. It's one with more wonder too, as the floating is freeing in those moments and the space environment just sort of adds to it all. So it creates this really nice environment feeling and impression overall. Don't worry though, I have a few coming up that aren't as peaceful. I mean, I did title this series Dreams and Nightmares, so there is a lot to fully explore. There are some that I'm working out the sketch for at the moment that should be coming up eventually, and I don't quite know when that will be. Could be next week, could be in a few weeks, but we'll just have to see how that all plays out. For now though, let's move on. This is a shorter one, that is mainly because I had to use a different process for it. And by a different process, I don't mean my usual, I used a different brush, like I always go on about. This one, I mean I fully changed my regular approach to my digital process and tied in more of my painting processes to it. See, you may notice that I don't go through my usual stages of flat colours to shading after the sketch, and I instead sort of mix the two together. I kind of knew going into it that I wouldn't be able to do everything as normal. For the main point, the bubbles. They're meant to be transparent mainly, and drawing in flat colours would have made it extra work, or have been a more roundabout way of doing it. It wouldn't have looked right, in any sense, at the flat colours, and there would have been a higher chance I abandoned the entire thing early on. Either that, or I would have had to change the outcome I was targeting visually. It's sort of why the sketch sat for a few weeks longer than it normally does, because it has been sat there now for a while, but I've only just chosen to work on it, mainly because I was concerned that I wouldn't get the outcome that I wanted. But with the processes, I just didn't do it. I instead decided to approach it like a painting. It actually meant that the file had so few layers in the end, I was surprised by myself. I mean, I had two I was working on at the same time when I was drawing this. One is this one, where I had a handful of layers to work with, not many, and the other where I got to 30 layers by the time I finished the flats. And I haven't finished that image yet, but it's around the average I'm used to. Sometimes it can be 30 layers, there have been some that I work on where it's closer to 60. There's only been one time when I've been drawing that I've ever reached like triple digits for the layers, and I don't think I want to make a habit of that one. My laptop wasn't such a fan. Going back to the topic, this process was just quicker for a change. See, this is an image I considered to paint physically rather than doing it digitally originally. Ultimately, surprising to nobody, I did it here instead. But on a canvas, I would have had to let the paint dry and mess with the blending a lot more than I did digitally. The main reason I did it digitally instead of traditionally is I just wanted to work digitally when I got to the point of sketching it. Though another key factor was that I was out of canvases at the time, so we ended up here instead. But because I had it in mind as a painting, I let myself experiment. Normally when I'm drawing, I will lock the layers and I'll ensure it so that it's easier for me to work with. This time I didn't do that. I also let myself keep things loose and sort of push what I would normally do, including using different pens than normal. But all of this combined to mean that the process was just shorter than any other piece I normally do. I mean, I actually had to consider if I'd finished it or not, since I expected it to take me far more time and energy. But I liked it and it's finished. At the time of writing this script, I could always go back and change it if tomorrow I woke up and hated it. It's a very plausible thing too, or if I print it and need to fix the colours for the prints. But that's all something I'd likely change or alter later on, and I highly doubt I will. It was nice to have a shorter piece, to be honest. Normally these sorts of processes will take me literally a few extra hours compared to my normal. Only because approaching it as painting often means I end up going over things again and again and again, and I usually make mistakes that need fixing, and I can't just delete the layer and restart because that means I would be deleting half the piece. Though, this time it was pleasant for once. And I have another image from these types of dreams where the processes will be the same. The other image is one that should come up eventually. I've had the sketch sat for a while at this point for the same reasons as this one, so it might come out within the next few weeks. I'm maybe being a bit optimistic there. It depends if I get another sketch that I feel like I want to work on before it. But the process was straightforward. It was literally just using the right mixing mode for once, and remembering to switch brushes between Clip Studio's perceptual and standard mixing modes. And also trying to work out the differences between them. I know that there are differences, but they're very subtle when actually being used. But it was fun to mess with. If I am being honest for a moment, this week was meant to be another illustration. I had it sketched and spent a while working on it this week to try and finish it up. It's probably going to be coming up in the next few weeks since it is almost done, if not finished by now. Yep, this one got finished as I was taking a break from the other piece. That one may end up being next week's drawing. But that other image is a sketch that has been sitting too. I sort of always have a few that are always being worked on and going on, and I cut between them as I wish. But this week was meant to be that piece. I then ended up working on the both of them, and this one ended up being the one that was finished first. And I liked it, so I decided to start working on the script, and here we are. I am sort of working a little more on the video side of stuff this week, since next weekend I'm going to visit a friend for her birthday, and I do want things boxed off before I go. Normally, my work schedule will see the videos set to the first half of the week, where the editing can then be done in sections in the second half. Though the latter parts of the week also see me working on shop designs, as I have a few things going forward that I want to release soon, and do need to put energy into all of that. Though my focus now is to ensure I have a video sorted this week and next week, to sort of afford myself more time to get ready to see them. It's kind of bad, but I still also need to do half of their present in one of these weeks, as despite the few months' notice, I still haven't done them. This one is on me. I have one part of it which I hope they'll like, but then I ended up doing the typical artist or art friend thing, where I thought then it would be a great idea to make something for them, but not starting it until the few final days. Hey, it should be fine though. Checking in a few videos to see if I managed it or not. Though, with all of that said, that brings us to the end of the video. So, I hope you have enjoyed, and I hope to see you all next time. If you like this piece, there will be a link below to my Etsy, where the prints will be available to buy. If they're not available to buy when the video comes out, it will be up sometime next week. But I hope to see you next week, and with my next few videos, and have a wonderful day.